Last week, I have been speaking about the liberating potential of impermanence, and how we can train ourselves to see this potential with increasing clarity in our own experience. And I shared with you like a classic sequence about that at the last meeting. So in a way, I've said that several times, but I don't think we can say it often enough, that in a way we can say that the Buddha's teachings are all about how we are relating to our own experience, because this is where we can actually train. We can't really control what we are experiencing, but the way how we relate to experience, this is where the opportunity lies. To become increasingly a good friend to ourselves inside the messiness of our lives or samsara. And in the early Buddhist texts, there is quite some speaking about friendship. And I've looked into two very short suttas, which are called Mitta suttas. Mitta is the Pali word for friend. Maybe some of you have heard the word Kalyana Mitta, a spiritual friend. And those are two different versions of 7 qualities of a good friend. And they are in the Anguttara Nikaya, the numbered discourses. And I have pulled out 7 qualities out of these 2 suttas, because some of them are not so approachable, I feel, for us in this day and age. But I've pulled out 7 out of those 2 suttas, and I like to share them with you. And we can, listen to those qualities also in relationship to our own experience, I feel. But of course, and also in relationship to others. So that sutta says mendicants, which are the monastics the Buddha is speaking to, and these suttas, you should associate with a friend who has 7 factors. What 7? First one is they give what is hard to give. And it doesn't necessarily need to be things, it can be time, attention, kindness. And they do what is hard to do. So that's the first. They give what is hard to give, and they do what is hard to do. The second one is they keep your secrets. The third one is they don't abandon you in times of trouble. And the fourth one is they don't look down on you in times of loss. Fifth one is they admonish you and they accept admonishment. Number 6, they speak on deep matters. Number 7, and they don't urge you to do bad things. So that's those 7 qualities. And I think one is really, central. They don't abandon you in times of trouble. And they don't look down on you in times of loss. And this is so important, in relationship to ourselves. Because being human is hard. I think that's why you're all here, and that's why I'm here. We noticed that, being human is hard, and it's a messy affair. And when we are struggling, when we are going through difficult emotions, we often add an additional, judgment on top of it. Because somehow we imagine that we are struggling because we have done something wrong. because we think life should always be easy. And if there's some struggle or difficulty, it's because we did something wrong. And that's like a cultural myth, really. Or we haven't shopped for the right items, or we don't have enough money, or all of those things. And, it can become like a beating ourselves up and adding more on top of what's already difficult. And in the very early evolution, of our character, this lifetime or other lifetimes before, for a little child to have those automatic reactions, in order to keep safe, to keep inside of the family, we develop those patterns, so that we are taken care of. But then, when we get older, we don't have to do that anymore because we are not children anymore. And this is, very important part of the practice, to start to notice, why are we beating ourselves up, for example? Why are we doing this? And, learning to stay with ourselves in the fire of the pain, rather than trying to divert it into something else. That's often, if we can't stay with an experience in a way of relating to it by feeling and sensing it, we tend to split it off into the head and try to make sense of it, by thinking. And that's like this repetition compulsion, of always thinking the same thoughts. So if we can't stay with sensing and feeling, we go into overthinking. And I'm sure you all know about it. I know about it very well. And it's not about stopping the thinking, but it's about how we are relating to the thinking. This is where the practice lies. And then, the thinking is going to, become less and less intense over time if we don't buy into it, if we don't give it energy. And if we rather try, kind of kindly and with a light touch, bring back the awareness into the experience in the body and just staying with it, like with a little kid, which is crying. And almost like, you're picking it up and you take a cloth and put it around your belly and just go about your day. You have to slow down, if you have the kid with you, but you can still do everything. Slow down and give some of your energy to be with the energetic experience, which we usually split off, split it off into the head and go into those patterns. And a lot of it is self-judgment. I know how difficult it is, but this is the way to do it, really. This is the way to do it. And it's not so much doing, it's more like sensing and feeling. And then opening up, more of our potential by giving it that space and by, breathing into it, opening up more of our potential and, and connecting and staying conscious of our innermost request, of our innermost calling. And this is why we need to relate to ourselves in this way, like a friend, So a loving devotion to ourselves and to our innermost calling, to our innermost request, to those qualities, we would like to live in the world and we'd like to bring into the world. And that, slowly but surely switches on a different part of ourselves, which is a potential and opens up those possibilities which are yet unmanifest. So possibilities, which are rooted in emptiness, we can say, which are unmanifest, but because of the willingness to stay in relationship with the difficulties, with the fire, with the burning, and knowing this is impermanent, and at the same time knowing the qualities we wish to live. And then something starts to happen. Insights come to us. And our freedom to participate in life as it is increases. We don't have to keep so many things out, We don't have to hide. And sometimes that can be such a amazing kind of inspiration, like which I sometimes call the urge to evolve, that real inspiration to allow more life to land in myself. Opening up more beauty, more richness, more sacredness, and more sense of a connection, with something much bigger than myself. What I sometimes call this self-regenerative intelligence of the planet as our teacher. So living those qualities, we really deeply find meaningful in relationship, to our lives, to our world, whatever is unfolding, living those qualities, no matter how we feel in the body, but still living those qualities and giving those feelings and sensations the space they need to change by themselves. That will slowly, reveal our purpose, how to live those qualities. Because we all have, different ways how we are expressing them. According to our skills, according to our cultures and where we are coming from. And by simply staying with that which is difficult and not abandoning ourselves like a good friend. Not judging ourselves like a good friend. And that doesn't mean, that judgment doesn't come up in the mind, the thinking mind. That's not the point. The thinking mind is just one of 6 senses. And as I said many times, the nose smells and the tongue tastes and the ears hear, the eyes see, and the mind thinks. It's not like a special sense organ, in that context, according to the Buddha's teaching. And I found that very what's the word? Calming. If I think that the thinking mind is just a sense organ, but it's not the boss, And there's different layers of the mind. There's the thinking mind. The word in the Pali language for the thinking mind is mano. And then there is that which knows, the chitta I'm often referring to. That's a different layer of the mind. Mano, chitta, and then there's also vijnana, consciousness, sense consciousness. So the thinking mind is a more superficial, layer of the mind, which can serve our calling and can serve what is known, but it can't be the leader, It is too superficial for that. And the thinking mind is there to fill in the gaps, to make, if we can't really feel or sense something, we tend to go into the thinking mind and try to make sense of it. But then, the thinking mind operates according to patterns. If it hasn't been, cleared out yet, those patterns, they will always take over no matter how old they are and how much they are not really applying to the situation. So that's, something to not suppress, but also to not believe in, to allow it to do its thing. But, like seeing children at play, giving them the space and making sure, they don't run into trouble. That's okay. And then at one point, they are tired and they want to go home. And the same with the thinking mind. So, let's take some time for meditation, about 40 minutes. And just starting by, feeling the weight of the body on the cushion or on the chair, wherever you're sitting today. And allowing the breath to take you into the body. And noticing how you are already a good friend to yourself by giving yourself the time, to practice in this way. By cultivating a relationship to this group, a little bit a sense of, hello, and feeling the support of familiar faces. And remembering, what brings you here to this hour together and generally to practicing. What is it? And as we are sensing, the gravity which gently pulls us, hugs us towards the soil underneath where we are sitting. Planet Earth. We are inside of planet Earth, held by gravity. This planet, which is spinning through space. And still, our experiences of being securely held. This is so much bigger than just like, a floor to walk or a ground to walk upon. This is a vast, intelligent, living being. And we are inside of it every moment. But somehow, our perception hasn't really expanded to the degree that we can recall that every moment. That's, part of what we are doing here together in these sessions is to allow that perception to become more conscious. That's the impetus, behind these earthworm sessions. I'd like to quote an English teacher who passed away a few years ago. His name is Robert Bayer, and he says, practice is not practice unless it affects perception. Practice is not practice unless it affects perception. And then, as our perception expands, our capacity to stay with experience also increases. And there is less need to judge and exclude. And that's, happens in a small way in relationship to ourselves, and in a very big way in relationship to the biosphere and all the modern human world, the modern human life forms, which are so many. And we just need to start where we are. It's a huge tangle, it's a huge mess. But still we can start where we are right now and see what emerges, what reveals itself, by just giving it the space and the friendship of not abandoning, those parts which are afraid, which are contracted, which are like averse, which don't want to know, which want to turn away and bury themselves. But wherever we go, we're always going to be part of the earth. As long as we have a body like this. I like that beautiful title of one of Pema Chodron's books, The Wisdom of No Escape. The wisdom of no escape is a very powerful way of putting it. And really trusting that the process of friendship to the discomfort. Allowing the intelligence of the process to take charge, to metabolize. We don't know, how the stomach metabolizes breakfast I just ate. I have no clue, but I know it's happening. I can just let it be happening. I don't have to interfere. Just holding the space like a good friend. And then, with the out breath, we can imagine that we are sending down some roots into the soil underneath us without any pressure. And in a way, the body, the earth body of the planet, the soil is like also metabolizing. There are things, dying and coming into the soil. Then they get transformed in the soil through the different animals which live in the earthworms, being one of those, with the mycelium, the different forms of life which operate in the soil. And then new life comes out of it, new plants. And I was, this last weekend, I went hiking with a friend in old growth forest near Lake Independence in the Sierras. And, we walked in a forest, but there were no paths. It's a forest which has never been, never any trees have been cut there since the end of the last ice age. It's about 10,000 years old, that forest. It was amazing to see those huge trees, rotting back into the soil. That was such a powerful display of impermanence and how the planet itself is a process of constant transformation. And we stayed, for one night in that old growth forest. It was pretty awesome. So how these trees, they support each other all the time. Sending down roots into the soil with the out breath, and with the in breath, breathing up the richness and the stability and the vastness of that layer of the planet. Which knows what to do. and always has known what to do. Has this incredible patience and steadiness we can learn from. We can attune to and emulate. And when we are in that more expanded place in ourselves, it's quite easy to sense, the stability of the earth and the relationship of interbeing with the earth. But when we are in a more contracted, fearful state, then we feel cut off and separate. And then it's really important to remember that's not all there is. And this is really where the practice comes in, to be able to remember that. Even we can't really access it in the moment. But to remember it and have the patience and the kindness towards our own experience, the spaciousness, which then, allows for more relaxation, and then we can again tap into that. And that's really impermanence and work. So breathing into the contraction, breathing into the tensions. Breathing up a little bit more space into that. And then, we can also notice, how that affects our perception. And then it's through training, through cultivation, that capacity to remember becomes more and more stable. And with that, the contracting becomes less intense. And then there's more capacity to stay in this friendly relationship with ourselves and our experience. And we know, that now is not then. Now is now. And there's an echo maybe, from the past, but it's not what's happening right now. Situation is different. And this is how we are starting, to live those qualities more fully, which, inspire us and which are, connected to our innermost request for how we would like to be and how we would like to live. So, relating to our own experience with this sense of friendship or metta, loving kindness. So with the in-breath, allowing the metta to be really felt and sensed as a quality in our own experience, allowing it to permeate the body. And with the out-breath, allowing it, gently to radiate out without any pressure in front of us. And all around us, above and below. Like sitting in an orb of metta, which radiates out into limitless space. And I can share with you a chant which is meditation instructions, from the early suttas about what's called the Brahma Viharas, the 4 divine abidings, and one of those is metta. Just gonna chant that in English while you are sitting. I will abide, pervading one quarter, with a mind imbued with love and kindness. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth, so above and below, around and everywhere, and do all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a mind imbued with love and kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. So radiating that kindness and spaciousness first, towards our own body and mind, and then allowing it to just radiate out into limitless space. At a time when the earth herself, has become our teacher, has emerged as our teacher. Even the earth is mentioned also in the early scriptures as teacher of patience and acceptance. And now, she is also teaching us about the repercussions of ignorance. And developing that sense of, friendship towards ourselves, so we may accept those teachings of the modern human world. Because practice is not practice unless it affects perception. Qualities of a good friend, who is willing to do what is hard to do. So that kind of generosity and willingness to stay in relationship that heals the scarcity of trauma, where there's always not enough of everything. So that generosity, which gives us the ground to stand on as we are going through this bottleneck of shift in the paradigm. Where we start to realize, that we are participants of the planet, not just users. And in that sense, something gets integrated and perception shifts, paradigm shifts. And we can allow more life to land in us. And responding, from that place, taking responsibility as participants rather than as owners or controllers of something. And in that sense, our own healing can become our gift into that process, our gift to the world. The medicine we are able to bring into the mix of so many different gifts everyone has to offer. So, being willing to do what's hard to do is another way of saying, of developing the capacity to not turn away from the messiness of the transformative practice. But just like, digesting food is what the stomach knows how to do. Awareness knows how to transform old patterns, of holding things down. We just need to allow it to happen. And, put the causes and conditions in place. So we have the support, like meeting together in this gathering, as, spiritual friends. As, part of the immune system of the planet. And doing our little bit and allowing ourselves to be like an antenna for this. Process, to embody it. We don't have to understand everything with the thinking mind, but it's more a way of sensing into it. Even it's maybe unpleasant, but it's going in the right direction. Because it opens us up more fully until full, complete liberation when that time has come.